All right, guys, we're live. 9 blocks to go to the Halving, and blocks are just ripping by. We're here today to talk about Lightning. Let's do a quick round of intros. I'm Tyler from Bitcoin Magazine, and I'll let the rest of you guys introduce yourselves. Maybe start with Alex.
Hey, yeah, I'm Alex Leishman from River Financial. What's up, guys?
Hey.
And I'm Chris Dannen from Iterative Capital, makers of the Escher app.
What's up, everyone? I'm Jack Mallers from Zap and Strike.
And we just got Will joining us. Hey, Will.
How's it going, everybody? Happy Halving.
All right, so we're here to talk about how Lightning changes the game. You know, it's been busy for years since the last Halving. We had the Lightning paper released in January 2016, and since then, a lot has changed the game. So I wanted to start with just talking about what are you guys looking forward to in this next epoch, and you know what should people be excited about for Lightning?
Sure, I can kick off. So I think one of the reasons that we got the Ethereum and altcoin boom in 2017 was this perception that at a glance, Bitcoin was too conservatively engineered for application development or for some of the more interesting applications to finance. But as it turned out, all we needed was the Lightning Network to facilitate a lot of these things. So one of the things that I look most forward to is seeing Lightning beat the altcoin systems at their own game, so to speak, be more flexible, more secure, more robust, easier to develop on, right? Which are all the kind of classic criticisms of Bitcoin. So I would say if there's one thing I'm looking forward to, it's that.
You mentioned easy to develop on, and that is a criticism that's been leveled at Bitcoin for years and years, is just how hard it is for new developers to start building on top of it. What do you guys assessment on the state of kind of the developer tooling and experience around Lightning, and how has that changed over the last couple of years?
Sounds like a good. Go ahead, Alex.
Sure, yeah. So I can speak to our experience at River. So I think Lightning tooling has come a very long way. I think there's a ways to go for sure, but I think it's at a point now where we can run this peer-to-peer off-chain network relatively reliably on behalf of customers, as I think a number of people in this channel can attest, and it's pretty impressive. And it's really great to see this idea that you can have this complex off-chain functionality reduced to these simple on-chain commitments and have that really work well. So we've been very, pleased with the experience so far. But there are a lot of improvements to make for sure.
And Will, how about with you guys at Fold?
I mean, thinking about where we were a year ago and all the tooling that we had to build ourselves, that wasn't even related to necessarily the service we were trying to offer, just trying to create a more, hard and robust, experience at the, from just basic protocol level. And the amount that we've actually seen come in from the community with other contributors developing, learning from all these people on this panel right here has been incredible. So we're building way faster than we did about a year ago. Our volumes in Lightning, so the user experience is far superior. We see the developments, when we saw Strike launch, when we have Escher, our numbers and our volumes start going up instantly in a way that you can just feel the developments that are made, the improvements that are made have a direct and immediate effect, because you have a whole audience of people ready and willing to test these things, and they're just getting better and better. And so I'm looking forward to, over the next year, kind of getting out of this sandbox environment and, building real businesses on top of this.
Jack, what does the next couple of years look like for you guys?
Yeah, well, I think specifically on ESA development, I think it's a really important and stark difference between base layer development and that there's no general consensus to achieve. So the risk of multiple implementations or forward-thinking development or ambitious features, it's not the same as developing on the base layer. And so I think all of us on the panel were probably very taken aback by the speed of development as, compared to base layer development. But I think it's an inherent property of Lightning itself, is that different implementations, different businesses can take different risk-based approaches on their level of ambition and the risk that they want to take on as far as the P2P network, because there is no general consensus and there is that false safe that an error would be to your specific channel state and wouldn't split the chain per se. So I think that that's a pretty important characteristic. And over the next few years, I expect development pace to only ramp up as we just attract more talent, more capital, more eyeballs on Bitcoin. And for me, I think when we talk about the next 4 years for Lightning, I'm most excited that Bitcoin, I think its two main value propositions in its existence so far has been censorship resistance and digital scarcity. And all of a sudden, we have Lightning users that now are using the asset for neither of those two. Where Lightning, you're inherently spending it, so you're not using Bitcoin because you're trying to accumulate wealth and speculate on the upside. And a lot of these people are using it with services that don't necessarily provide them privacy or censorship resistance. And we're seeing it now as like a settlement tool, as an inherently global settlement tool that can settle and move value cheaper and faster than any other payment rail. And I think it could potentially usher in a third value prop to Bitcoin alongside the digital scarcity, which drives the price up, and its inherent censorship resistant properties. So I think there will be some serious catalysts for big business opportunity in the next 4 years as this matures, in my opinion.
Yeah, and going just beyond even the settlement of value, the micropayment layer. Now you're starting to see people using the same Lightning routing system for things like messaging or data transfer with TLV shop. What sorts of those use cases are you guys excited about, bullish on, looking for more people to explore over the next few years?
Well, I think one of the most exciting things is the LSATs, the Lightning Service Application Tokens or authentication tokens. So if you guys saw Lalu's blog post from the end of March, it's going to be really interesting to kind of replicate some of the token-based authentication schemes that we already have with centralized providers, but do it with a self-sovereign identity, which is pseudonymous and which is persistent across the network. So, and that kind of opens up the door to, different marketplace type services, which are pseudonymous, but because you have a persistent identity, you can develop a reputation and you can reduce the need for trust and reduce the friction for commerce. So yeah, of all the things that we've talked about, I think LSATs are one of the most exciting.
I'm personally really excited about, this is kind of related, but key send stuff and just removing the interactivity of somebody sending Lightning payments, especially to a service provider like ourselves. The killer use case is if someone just has a QR code with their user ID embedded in the QR code, and whenever someone pays to that invoice, we know who they're sending money to us for. Right now, you just have to generate invoices, send it to somebody, and the flow is a little clunky. So I'm really excited about embedded data there.
I think for me, I'm excited in getting Lightning into the hands of as many people as possible and making it an accessible tool and learning to see what the general population values in Lightning itself. I have my own speculative opinion, but I don't think it's very accurate or important. But I think looking back, maybe years down the road, it'll seem intuitive that when you build a payment system, you should by nature make it interoperable with this open standard of money movement, which is Bitcoin and now Lightning. And so with Strike, that's what we're doing, is that Cash App users can only pay Cash App users, Venmo users can only pay Venmo users. We see this in India with their mandated singular QR code, is that these bifurcated fintech payment systems, they reach dead ends. And now we have the open source global payment specification to move money. And I'm just excited to make people's bank accounts interoperable with this system by nature from the ground level, and build one of these payment app stacks from the ground up, but with a specific goal of making it interoperable with Bitcoin, so that you can pay other Strike users, or you can pay any of the millions of Bitcoin users that already exist all over the world, and vice versa, and receive. And then from there, I think it's going to be fairly trivial where people spend their time and their money when the tool is accessible, and we can really have a real test to see where the efficiencies really lie, as opposed to, generally speculating all the time. So I'm excited to just like make it real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know a number of you guys are focused on that adoption piece too, and like onboarding people to Lightning, making it easy for them to get started with Strike, with Escher. Even you guys are at River. Can you talk a little bit about how that experience is today, and how the road to making that seamless for the next billion Bitcoin users and beyond?
I remember when we launched Lightning Pizza back, it seems like years ago now, but there was really one wallet available, Blue Wallet, custodial option only. Even the teams running these things, both on Fold side and other wallet providers, had no idea how to manage liquidity and make sure channels were up and running. And so it was, even the experts were still trying to figure this stuff out. And I don't know if you hop into any of these Telegram channels, from Fold's Telegram, I think all of you guys have one at least. Most of our roadmap is from our users actively using it in strange ways, coming to us and saying, hey, how about this? Let's build this out. Here was my experience onboarding my grandmother, or, you name it. And so both from the kind of active developer community, but there are just people who will uptake a new Lightning service, let you know how to make it better in a way that is different from developing, products, maybe in just a regular consumer world or whatever it is. Like, Lightning community itself should not be underestimated. And I don't know about everyone else, but they've been leading our roadmap quite a bit. So we've been benefiting off of both strong developers, but also just people just testing the shit out of Fold.
That's awesome.
I can speak to some of the unique kind of usability things that we face with our clients. So all these other guys have done really great job building these consumer products. One of a lot of our users are very like finance heavy type people. They care about like tax tracking and things like that. And one of the challenges we've had to figure out, to try to solve is that Bitcoin sits in this weird world in between an investment and money. And from a tax perspective, it's treated as an investment, and all the tax reporting tools, all the accounting tools people are used to they're used to investments that only stay investments, and they aren't also used as money. And so building financial reporting around someone's accounts where they're investing in Bitcoin, but they're also spending it, and building the UI around tracking those tax lots and making it intuitive for people, and making the accounting not a total nightmare. It has been an interesting challenge that we've been focused on trying to solve. So that's been interesting.
I would say from our side, we build products for a variety of users, and we've talked a lot about kind of implicitly about retail people and giving them a good user experience. But another group of folks that are active in Bitcoin and I think interested to get more into Bitcoin are professional traders. And, they have historically kind of reasonably made fun of the trading infrastructure that Bitcoin has had to date, which is all RESTful APIs and very slow settlement. And I think some of the more interesting products that we're excited about building are for people who need a real professional trading workstation where they can, where they have an order log that looks like what they're familiar with from their time at a big bank, or they have a P&L sheet that tracks positions in a really intricate way and is not as basic as, let's say, Binance's P&L calculator. So I think, when it comes to getting Lightning in the hands of more people, getting Bitcoin in the hands of more people, I think retail interest is really great, but you also need really robust liquidity, and you need people in traditional finance who are treating this just like every other asset class. Otherwise, you'll never get the liquidity you need to support a big retail user base. So that's one of the things on our roadmap that's crucial.
Yeah, I think for us, the feedback for Strike has been overwhelmingly positive. I mean, we have our small controlled private beta, but people are spending tens of thousands of dollars a month at Fold. Will, shout out. These guys are buying the shit out of gift cards. And yeah, for us, I mean, it's such a new service. So when Alex talks about taxes, our users aren't even subjected to any tax consequences because they never even touch the asset. So it's so new. So it's new for us as engineers. It's new for regulators. It's new for our counsel and all of our lawyers. It's new for our banking partners. It's new for everyone. And so we just have been launching shit and just trying to learn and be patient and be good listeners. And but things have been going really well. I think for us, we have an internal goal as a group to make our beta public before this month is over. So we're testing some new KYC stuff, some new banking relationship stuff, but I'm excited. I think 2020 is going to be a big year. And yeah, so far so good on our end.
Jack, you mentioned, how users can do that with Stripe without even touching the asset. You mind explaining that for people who aren't familiar with how Stripe works under the hood?
Yeah, I mean, from a high level, we have a set of Lightning infrastructure node set, and users interact with the outside world from their bank account or from their debit card. And they can scan any QR code their heart desires, on-chain, Lightning, or a Strike QR code. And then we handle the payment. Our infrastructure handles the payment, and whether we have to make a Lightning payment, a Bitcoin payment, and we live trade all of that flow. So of course, if we're sending a lot of Bitcoin out and receiving dollars, we don't want to be inherently short Bitcoin or in the reverse, inherently long. And so we have some live trading algorithms and some flow management algorithms and infrastructure piece that's making and settling value and ensuring our balance sheet remains flat through it all. But as a user, that was a really spaghetti way of explaining that. As a user, you connect your bank account and you scan a QR code and you click pay. You never actually touch Bitcoin. You can never be deemed an owner of the asset. There's no capital gains. All you're doing is money's leaving your bank account and going to us as a business. And so no one knows what you buy, who you're interacting with, or you're never actually touching Bitcoin. We're just using Bitcoin as a settlement layer for a lot of the efficiencies, and also allowing you to interact with an economy that's inherently global and has millions and millions of people that use it every day. So
super cool. I can't wait for the beta launch, hopefully this month.
Yeah, we'll get it to you. No problem. Working on it.
Let's talk about the next Halving a little bit. Say we're all sitting here 3.5, 4 years from now. The world's defeated coronavirus. We all have longer and grayer hair. What does Lightning look like at that time, or what would be the best case scenario for Lightning and Bitcoin to look like in 2024?
I'll say the best case scenario, along the lines of what Jack was saying, is that people are only dimly aware of the fact that they're using Bitcoin in many of the instances that they are. I think that would be a real marker of success, that it becomes a layer of infrastructure that, people might recognize the logo the way they recognize the Visa or MasterCard logo. But similar to Visa and MasterCard, I don't think most people give 2 seconds of thought to how that network works. They just care that when they put the chip in the reader, that it pays the transaction quickly and that they can go about their business. Getting to that level of infrastructure would be a real win.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that, and I totally agree with Chris. Further blurring the lines between the dollar or just whatever unit of exchange or common money that people use, and Bitcoin as an infrastructure piece, I think currently is the ultimate goal, is that Bitcoin as a technology offers us many efficiencies, especially in consumer commerce, which is generally a super inefficient system. And allowing consumers to interact with it and benefit from it without being bogged down or having any form of cost, whether that's monetary costs or just mental costs. So yeah, but I'm also pretty confident in saying I have no fucking idea. I think that that's cool though. I think that that speaks to the opportunity that, you know, we're all on this panel starting businesses. And I think that that's what's most exciting. So I think what Chris outlined would be the goal, and I'd be a happy man if we were able to pull that off successfully. But I'm excited for the journey, quite frankly, and being one of those that is on the ground fighting the fight. I think the answers will be clear in 4 years, and between now and then is just time to figure them out.
I think that from a business perspective, running Lightning infrastructure is going to be a lot more well understood. The failure modes are going to be a lot more understood. Lightning is going to have withstood the tests, some tests of time, and I think that if Lightning is successful in 4 years, a company like ours will see a lot more value being transferred over Lightning versus on-chain transfers. Yeah, just like Jack said, I mean, who knows? It's hard to say. I think the only thing we know is that we just got to keep building, keep improving, keep iterating, and see what happens.
I'm excited to see what happens when fee markets actually come into play, and what dynamics that has effect on Lightning usage and how the two networks are relating to each other. I think that's still something that we have some good thoughts on what's going to happen, but as Jack said, we have no fucking clue. So that's going to be exciting. I think also it shouldn't be underestimated the work that's already been done with this group. So what Fold already sees is that there is massive demand for people to spend Bitcoin. However, they don't when they realize the taxation issue. We have tons of users that start this. They realize the tax headache. Fold tries to make it easy for them, but it's not easy. And so what happened? Well, Escher Strike came around and says, hey, we can route around the ability for having to have these capital gains moments here. Now that's involved in the user experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be. And so I love how we just forge ahead, build around any obstacles that we see. And I think, I'm confident we'll bring this to a good place, because I already know that the demand is there. We just have to fix some of the incentives and user experience. And, I think Lightning has.
Awesome. You mentioned user experience there. We've got time for just one more question here, but all four of you guys are entrepreneurs, are building and running businesses that use Lightning today. What would you say to the aspiring entrepreneur or developer who isn't sure about Lightning but is interested in the kind of stuff you guys are building? What would you say to them to get started?
Well, I think I would just say just start building, but also think about the business model that you want to have and the responsibility you want to have as a business. Do you want to be responsible for other people's money and custody it? Do you want to build something that empowers other people to be custodying their own funds? And I think making that decision first is really important, because it really determines the direction of your business, how fast you can move, and the kind of money you need to raise to start an enterprise. So that's a big question to answer.
Yeah, I would add to that, to pay attention to the macroeconomic context that we're in. Obviously, we got Bitcoin out of the 2008 2009 debacle, and here we are again in a very similar liquidity crisis. And the dollar is crushing offshore FX, and I think it's going to go on to crush many other asset classes too. So what that means for people that live outside the United States is that their money is even more garbage than it was a year or two ago. And they're even more reliant on the dollar system, unfortunately. And in most cases, if you're living outside the US, the dollar system is not accessible or flexible enough to really meet your needs. And you may be able to get exposure to dollars as a way of protecting your savings from inflation, but you can't really use dollars day to day in most foreign countries. So Bitcoin has a really nice role as kind of perfect collateral for Forex transactions, where you want to go in and out of another currency, and maybe get exposed to a dollar denominated service or something that's being sold. I think for people outside the US, that's going to become a really big deal in the next year or two.
Yeah, I think as an entrepreneur looking to get started, my advice would be to just do it. Like Alex said, I think creating a successful product is not something that you can achieve necessarily or accomplish. It's a constant iteration of something that you maintain ongoing. You don't like just do something for 2 years and then finish and just mic drop it onto the world. Like Strike is an evolution from Zap and so on and so forth. So I would say just do it, and also just be generally cautious that Lightning is not a silver bullet. And if you don't know about Lightning or don't know enough, run a node and try and figure it out. It solves some problems, but doesn't solve all. But you got to do it. You got to find the truth somehow, and can only do that by trying.
Awesome, guys. Well, we'll call it there. Only a handful of blocks left to halving. Happy halving, everyone. Thanks for joining our stream, and appreciate you guys joining us today.